Usually when you think about like a bodily reflex, you expect pure mechanical simplicity. You
Hmm.
tap a knee with a little hammer, your leg kicks out. Clean and predictable.
Right, yeah. It's a just cause and effect. There's no deep psychological analysis required to understand why your leg moved.
Exactly. But then you encounter something like laughter.
Oh, yeah.
It feels like this uncontrollable reflex, but that clean cause and effect model just completely breaks down. Suddenly this everyday sound becomes this bizarre window into the human mind, society, and, well, maybe even existence itself.
It really is the ultimate psychological puzzle. I mean, you're looking at a physical spasm that somehow conveys everything from joy to nervous tension to, existential dread.
Welcome to this deep dive. Today our mission is to basically decode that puzzle for you. We're going to strip away the familiarity of a chuckle and look at the underlying philosophical theories of laughter, according to Hobbes, Kant, Freud, Bergson, and Camus.
It's quite the lineup.
It is. Hey, so let's unpack this. Where do we even begin?
Well, let's start with the most primal trigger. Think about the last time you saw someone trip on the sidewalk, or maybe you watched one of those viral compilations of people falling off skateboards.
Oh man, I mean, I feel terrible laughing at those, but it's such an immediate, involuntary reaction.
Exactly. And Thomas Hobbes had a rather blunt explanation for that. He argued that laughter basically stems from a sudden sense of superiority.
Superiority, like we just feel better than them.
Basically, yeah. When you see someone stumble, your brain registers their temporary misfortune and fires off a quick hit of triumph. You laugh because in that split second, you're upright and, well, they aren't.
Wow, so every laugh hides this tiny, ruthless ego boost. It
Uh,
feels a bit cynical, honestly. I mean, what about a clever pun or a dad joke?
right, right.
Nobody's tripping on a sidewalk there. I'm certainly not feeling superior to a play on words.
And what's fascinating here is how thinkers like Immanuel Kant and Arthur Schopenhauer tackled that exact gap. They shifted the focus away from the human ego and looked at pure logic. They argued that laughter is simply the sound of an expectation colliding with a completely different reality.
Oh, like a mental magic trick. So you're leading my brain down one logical path, and then the punchline just aggressively swerves into another. Our brains basically just short-circuiting with pleasure when reality suddenly breaks a pattern?
That's exactly the underlying mechanism. Your brain predicts a specific outcome. The joke shatters that prediction with an incongruous twist, and that cognitive friction basically just violently escapes your body as a laugh.
Okay, so that covers the logic of a punchline, but it doesn't really explain the raw emotion behind, say, giggling uncontrollably after a near-miss car accident.
Right, the nervous laughter.
Yeah, because there's no punchline there, and definitely no logic.
Which brings us to the emotional plumbing of the mind. Sigmund Freud looked at those exact high-stress situations and theorized that laughter is essentially a psychological release valve.
A release valve.
Yeah, so throughout the day, you build up all this repressed energy like fear, social constraints, nervous tension.
And when the internal pressure gets too high, laughter just lets the steam out so the boiler doesn't explode?
Exactly that dynamic. It's an automatic discharge of energy that your psyche no longer needs to use to suppress an emotion.
That makes a lot of sense.
But now, if you scale that concept up from individual psychology to an entire society, you encounter Henri Bergson's perspective. He proposed that society uses laughter as a tool to correct rigid or mechanical behavior.
Wait, correct behavior. How so?
Well, when someone breaks the fluid, unspoken rules of everyday life, the group laughs at them to gently shame them back into conformity.
Hold on, I have to push back on that. So what does this all mean? Does this imply that laughter isn't just innocent fun, but actually a subtle form of social policing to keep us all in line?
Bergson would say yes.
But what about when I'm sitting entirely alone on my couch, laughing at a video of a dog wearing a sweater? I'm not policing that dog's behavior, and I'm definitely not enforcing societal norms. How does Bergson count for just pure, isolated amusement?
Well, he would argue that even when you're alone, you carry the framework of society within you.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, you recognize the mechanical absurdity of a dog acting like a human because your brain is hardwired to detect deviations from the social norm. The laughter feels isolated, but the software running it is inherently social.
Wow. Okay, well, here's where it gets really interesting. Because if we zoom out past individual ego, past logic, and past societal rules, we hit the grandest scale of all, right? Reality
A
itself.
good word, yeah.
How does laughter function when we're confronted with the sheer scale of an uncaring universe?
This is where Albert Camus and the existentialist perspective come into play. Camus viewed the world as fundamentally absurd and totally devoid of inherent meaning. And confronted with that crushing reality, humans have very few options.
Are you saying our deepest laughs are just survival mechanisms?
Right.
Like, we laugh simply so we don't despair?
If we connect this to the bigger picture, it goes beyond mere survival. It actually becomes an act of rebellion. Camus suggests that when you laugh in the face of an incomprehensible universe, you're weaponizing your joy. It's the ultimate act of defiance against the absurd.
Man, so an everyday reflex is actually doing some really heavy lifting.
Hmm.
I mean, it's feeding our ego, processing logical collisions, venting psychological pressure, enforcing social conformity, and staging a full-blown existential rebellion.
And it manages to do all of that in a fraction of a second, entirely subconsciously.
Which leaves you with a rather strange question to ponder.
Hmm.
If Bergson is right that laughter is a social tool to correct others, and Camus says it's a rebellion against reality,
Right.
think about the next time you burst out laughing completely alone in an empty room. In that solitary moment, who exactly are you policing, and what exactly are you rebelling against?